One of the number one things that I like to stress to my solo queue teammates when I'm screaming at them alone in my room or trying to flee the generator that they started working on with me is to spread out and stop grouping up constantly for no reason. Much to my horror, this doesn't happen nearly enough when I am playing solo queue survivor, but whenever I'm queuing up as killer, suddenly everyone wants to spread out and crank out 3 separate generators while I do my first chase. Now, of course you might be thinking, well, Schizo, that's because you suck at survivor and your MMR is in the dumpster. Sure, but we aren't here to make me cry about my various failures today. No. Instead, I'm here to talk about map and spawn related offerings and my opinions on the changes made to them in the 9.0 update. In case you're simply unaware or somehow weren't paying attention, although if you've been playing this game you are likely very aware of them and the wars that they've inspired in comment sections and social media posts across the internet. Map offerings, spawn locations, and any offering that affects maps have received various changes this patch. We'll start with the most infamous and work our way to what I see as an issue currently. So, first off, let's talk about map offerings. In the past, these would guarantee that you went to a map. Anyone in the lobby could burn a map offering and guarantee whatever map that offering is associated with. Anyone else in the lobby was free to burn a sacrificial ward and cancel the map offering. However, if all 4 of the other players brought the same map offering, then the sacrificial ward was canceled. This was obviously a problem for years. It caused a lot of salt. Map offers would typically burn the offering for a distinct advantage. Survivors would try to send killers to notoriously awful maps like Badham, Eyrie of Crows, or Garden of Joy. Many specific killer builds would greatly benefit from offerings. Examples being Scratch Mirror Myers players sending you to Larry's, or back before her power was changed to kind of kill this build, Starstruck Nurse players sending you to Midwich. Players could see map offerings before the match began loading, which would often cause people to Alt F4 out of the game entirely to avoid a DC penalty and the bullshit map if they so chose. So naturally, in 9.0, about 9 years into the game, map offerings reached a satisfactory compromise between survivor and killer. Now, they only have a 20% chance of sending you to the particular map. They do not stack, and they are secret, so people cannot tell if they are being used while loading in. If you ask me, this was about as perfect of a change as you could get without removing them from the game. This way, there's still an offering that could be used, people can have their fun, but it isn't a guaranteed I get my home field advantage for whatever any particular player is trying to do. People can't DC out of salt when they see it because they have no way of knowing what it is. And sacrificial wards are no longer something that you may feel you need to burn to avoid this. I'm happy to finally be seeing a post-map offering salt DBD. I can't really get mad at something that's just a 20% chance, personally. Even if I end up on the map and it sucks, I guess that non-guarantee makes it more fun for me. We're all gambling with the offerings. Alongside that note, hatch and basement offerings have also seen a change, although only in one area. They are now a secret too, but they are still guaranteed, just like they've always been. This means that you can't immediately start the match knowing where hatch is going to spawn on either side unless you were the individual that burned it. This, in my opinion, is mostly fair, although killers could theoretically take advantage of this and know exactly where to head to close the hatch or attempt to spawn basement somewhere favorable for their build. I wouldn't mind these offerings being changed to a 20% chance as well to line them up with map offerings, and my next suggestion especially. See, I do have a problem and a bit of confusion with this because the way I see it, Behavior nixed one issue and then immediately created the exact same problem under a different banner. In the past, Shroud offerings were pretty useless, and they didn't make sense. Survivors were, for some reason, able to burn an offering to all spawn together, and killers could burn an offering to spawn survivors apart. This, again, made no sense. Since I've said a few times before on this channel, one of the most impactful things that a survivor can benefit from is a split spawn on a large map. On any map, really, but it's especially detrimental to the killer on a large map. One of the most disadvantageous things a killer could load into is spawning in the center of a map like Ormond or Disturbed Ward while all 4 survivors spawn at various corners. The pressure that a knowledgeable player can mount with this against the killer is hard to come back from, even with the most annoying of slowdown builds without being, say, Blight or Koniki. With the 9.0 update, the spawn rule changes, however, have been altered for the better, finally. Killers never spawn center map. Survivors are supposed to all spawn together on the same floor, except if the survivors burn the now changed Shroud of Separation. This offering used to be a killer offering. It spawns all 4 survivors apart, but now it's a survivor offering, and it's a secret, like all other map and spawn offerings are now. But, unfortunately, it's a guarantee, unless the killer burns the new Shroud of Vanishing, which has actually just been changed to cancel all survivor Shroud offerings, and it's also a secret as well. This, in my opinion, is extremely unhealthy and promotes the exact same issue that map offerings presented in the past. Now, I would argue if you're going for win streaks, you should burn Shrouds of Vanishing, period. Because if survivors use the Shroud of Separation, they have a strong advantage against you. What was the point of changing spawn logic when you absolutely know that any player who knows how this game works likely has a lot of these on either side and knows exactly how to use them? I personally think that behavior should move away from the idea of offerings giving guaranteed advantages like this, period. Things are much better today, it is true. Back then, back when the game first came out, Moris would allow people to be insta-killed upon being downed, period. Just the first time you're down, you could be killed. New Moon bouquets turned the map pitch black, and there were offerings that let you take specific killers for a test run during a match. This, in my opinion, still does not excuse the offering war that we are about to continue to endure. A single player's offering should not drastically alter the tempo of the match to this degree, plain and simple. My own personal proposal would either be that Shroud offerings are just brought in line with map offerings, where they only have a 20% chance to affect survivor spawns, or that Shroud offerings only serve to separate the offerer themselves from their teammates who otherwise all spawn together just like usual. Either of these, in my opinion, would be more than acceptable, because then we are truly leaving these strong advantages up to chance. Outside of BP offerings, others just do not match up to these shrouds at all anymore. Hazy reagent? Most people are just going to say that you made the map uglier for everyone. Hook offerings. They only work on certain maps, and the chance is so low that you might as well not even burn them. Luck offerings. Now, they are literally just going to be used to go next, just like luck perks. They've never really been useful, and now the worst kind of player is going to find it quote-unquote effective for their purposes, much to everyone else's annoyance. Overall, I think that the changes to most of the map and spawn-related offerings have been positive in this patch, actually. But personally, I would say that I find the Shroud changes to be extremely counterproductive. We were so close to having it be just about perfect. Generators move a lot faster these days, and many killers will talk about how gen regression perks have been nerfed and gen speed perks have been introduced or buffed, but at the end of the day, there are other factors that play into that more heavily, in my opinion, and one of them has always been spawn locations. I may advocate for survivors to play smarter and spread out, but one player being able to spawn them all apart gives a very strong head start to the team and hurts the weakest killers on the roster the most with something that is far out of their control. Offerings like this are one of the things in the game that represent the stark difference between the experienced player and the inexperienced, and the advantages that they can offer can be extremely steep for the individual that knows how to take advantage of those benefits that they do offer. Now is the time, if you ask me, to address this for good and uphold a specific standard within the game by making all of these offerings more reliant on RNG, just like map offerings. Otherwise, you risk undoing a good balance idea completely. As always, GG's well played, good luck in your next, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe, and maybe leave a like. It helps the channel grow. Skidzo out.